Welcome back to the cookie jar. Today we are going to be making the candy cane cookies out of Candy for Christmas. That's all of this page and this page. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to preheat your oven to 375, rack in the middle position. It's got a topping. You're going to need half a cup of peppermint candies crushed. There's a note. It says you can use round red and white peppermint candies that look like buttons, regular candy canes, or any other peppermint candy that you can crush into small separate pieces. You could even use pastel mints, the tiny little pillows you'll find in a pretty bowl right next to the mixed nuts at almost every Lake Eden wedding reception. And then you'll also, for the topping, need half a cup of granulated sugar. A cup for the dough. You will need a cup of softened butter, that's 2 sticks, half a pound. 1 cup powdered confectioner's sugar. 1 beaten egg, just mix it up in a cup with a fork. 1 teaspoon salt. 1.5 teaspoons of almond extract. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. 2.5 cups flour. Pack it down in the cup when you measure it. And half a teaspoon of red food coloring. So before you even start, it says Hannah's first note. Lisa and I prefer to use the big round peppermint candies that practically melt in your mouth because they're a lot easier to crush. And then, so the first thing you're going to do after you preheat the oven is to make the topping. Place the peppermint candies in a sturdy plastic bag and crush them with a rolling pin or mallet. You'll need half a cup to top your cookies. In a small bowl, mix the half a cup of crushed peppermint candies with a half a cup of white sugar. Set the bowl aside for now. I will be honest, I stuck mine in a Ziploc and then I hit it with a hammer until all the pieces were small. To make the dough, you'll need 2 bowls, a small and a medium-sized. In the medium-sized bowl, combine the softened butter, powdered sugar, beaten egg, salt, and extracts. Stir until they're well combined. Then add the flour in half-cup increments, stirring after each addition. Round up the dough and divide it in half. Put 1/2 in the small bowl, cover it with plastic wrap so it won't dry out. This will be the white part of your candy cane cookies. Blend the red food coloring into the other half. The dough in the medium-sized bowl. Mix it until it's a uniform color. This will be the red part of your candy cane cookies. Lightly flour a breadboard or rectangular cutting board and place it on your counter. You'll use this surface to roll the dough. Remove a teaspoon of white dough from the small bowl and roll it into a 4-inch long roll by pushing it back and forth with the palms of your impeccably clean hands. And then you are going to remove a teaspoon of red dough from the bowl and form a similar 4-inch long roll. Place the 2 rolls side by side on the board, hold them together and twist them like a rope so that the resulting cookie resembles a candy cane. Pinch the ends together slightly so they won't separate. Place the cookie on an ungreased, standard-sized cookie sheet and bend down the top to make a crook. You should be able to get 4 candy cane cookies in a row and 3 rows to a cookie sheet. Hannah's second note. The first time we made these, we rolled out a dozen white parts first, and then we rolled out a dozen red parts. Our dough got too dry sitting on the board, and the red and white twists we formed came apart. Now we shape these cookies one at a time and keep the dough bowls covered with plastic wrap. When we're not rolling. I'd really recommend forming these cookies one at a time. Once you've completed 12 cookies, cover your bowls of dough with plastic wrap. You don't want them to dry out between batches. Before you put your first pan of cookies in the oven to bake, spread out a length of foil and place a rack on top of it. This will hold your hot cookies when you decorate them with the peppermint candy and sugar topping. Once the cookies are completely cool, they can be transferred to a foil-lined box or platter, and you can round up any topping that's fallen through the rack to use again. Bake your cookies at 375 for 9 minutes. They should be just beginning to turn golden when you remove them from the oven. Immediately remove the cookies from the baking sheet and place them on the wire rack. Sprinkle the mixture of candy and sugar while they are still very hot. Continue to roll, shape, bake, and top your cookies until you roll out of dough. Yield approximately 4 dozen cookies depending on cookie size. These are definitely the first very complicated cookie recipe we have, because it's more than just making the dough and dropping it on the cookie sheets. You've got to make the dough, separate it, add more ingredients, roll them out, twist them together, bake them, top them. It's definitely going to be a lot more complicated than we're used to, but it is a very Christmassy cookie. Like, I feel like I've seen a variation of the candy cane twists for the last, 15 years. So it'll be interesting to see how this particular recipe comes out. Everything's already in the kitchen, so let's get in there. All right, so here's the crushed candy canes and the sugar, the powdered sugar, the flour, the extracts, the salt, the butter. I'm using these two, one for the white and one for the red. Those are the teaspoons. Now, for my food coloring here, I'm using a Wilton gel food coloring because I think that will work better in food. So I've already preheated the oven to 375. The first thing we're going to do is mix the granulated sugar into the candy canes. Now I get why they're not rolling them in this, because obviously the candy canes would just melt in the oven, make a mess. I get that. So I'm just not sure how much this is going to stick. All right, so we're going to put that over there by the foil on the table I have set up. And this guy can go in the sink. Okay, so we're going to take our butter, our softened butter, and we're going to put it in the bowl. And then we are going to add in the powdered sugar, the beaten egg. Now it does have us adding all of it at the same time. It does not have us mixing the butter and the sugar like it normally does or anything like that. The salt and both extracts. That's the almonds. And here is the vanilla. So now we combine these ones. Ready? All right, next it has us adding the flour in 1/2 cup increments. Remember, start it slow to avoid the puff cloud. All right, now here's the rest. It might be a little more than 1/2, but it's definitely not too much more than 1/2. All right, so now it wants us to divide it in 1/2 and split it, with 1/2 of it being the white and 1/2 of it being the red stripe. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna divide it in 1/2. I'm going to put 1/2 of it back into the bowl I was using for the flour. And then I'm going to put the 1/2, I'm going to make the food coloring. I'm going to leave it in this bowl. And then I'm just going to use the mixer to mix it in. Alright, so we've got the dough divided. Now we just add the food coloring. Now, it does not look like very much dough, so hopefully this gives us enough cookies that it makes all the work worthwhile and it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, that was so much work for 2 cookies. Ugh. Something like that, which I have seen some cookie recipes yield stuff like that where it is a lot of work and not very much cookies to really enjoy for it. Okay, so we have our red dough and we have our white dough. Cover them both up so they don't dry out. Alright, now I need to get a floured board, it says. With this style of cookie and how they talk about doing it one at a time and then baking that pan, we're not going to be able to just make everything and show you down the line and tell you how many it makes right off the bat. We're not going to be able to do that. This is going to be one of those recipes where you make 12 cookies, you bake 12 cookies, you decorate 12 cookies, you make 12 cookies, you bake 12 cookies, you decorate 12 cookies, etc., etc. So while I will be showing you how all of them come out, and I will give you a final count at the end of how many this recipe gave me, it's going to depend a lot, I think, on how evenly you divided your dough and how they roll out and everything, to me. Because if you're doing teaspoon by teaspoon, it should be pretty even. But I don't know. We'll see how that works out. I think we're going to get started with the floured boards and everything. It does say ungreased cookie sheets, so I will not be using my silicone mats today because I don't know how those work with recipes that say ungreased, so I'm just not going to chance it. And I marked the side of my board. This is 4 inches, so if you see me taking it down in the video, I'm just measuring, that's all. So we floured it, and now we want a teaspoon of white dough. Red is definitely wetter than the white. It's also kind of sticking on my hand, so I'm gonna have to make sure that I don't leave a lot if we want really clean lines, because I feel like I'm gonna end up getting red in the white and then it's gonna look strange. And then it says to take Mr. White with the red, squish them into the same size. And it says to twist them. Well, I don't know. My first one looks terrible. I can tell you that. And they say to lay it on the cookie sheet. And you're going to make a crook. Yeah, so just bend the top half. And there's our first very badly done one. I'm going to try to scrape up some of the flour. I think that maybe is what's keeping it from working. Maybe. There's our 4 inches. And now we have 4 inches. Put them together. Wipe my fingers so I don't get too much red in the white. And it says to twist them. It doesn't say how much to twist them though. That one's not so bad. Learning curve. Get it? Curve. Candy. Anyway. Sorry. I think, in all honesty, I'm starting to prefer, they have one cookie where you roll these into logs and then you twist those or you set those together, or you roll them into sheets. Like you roll out a sheet of the white and you roll out a sheet of the red and then you lay them on top of each other and roll those up. Those definitely seem like they'd be faster and get the same kind of candy cane colors, same swirl, and you don't have to fight twisting these. Maybe if they were bigger than a teaspoon, might work better. For me, this is a nightmare. more, guys, and we will be done with the first tray. I can tell you right now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm not sure how good these cookies are going to be, but I don't think it's going to be worth it for all this. We're not even done with the first thing, and I'm already losing my patience. And I don't know what they're talking about drying out. If anything, these are getting softer, which is making them harder to work with. So if you pinch one of the sides and roll the other, it doesn't, it's not terrible. Here is the first tray done. Some of these look absolutely atrocious. These last two where I figured out if you hold the side and roll it, it works better. All right, so we're gonna pop these in the oven for 9 minutes. And then we are going to take them out and immediately put them on the racks over here and sprinkle them. So I think I'm going to work on my next sheet while those are baking. Hopefully it does not take 9 minutes now that I've got that trick. It's a very delicate line. I think you have to balance between too much flour and they won't roll, they won't stick. They're a mess. Too little flour and they stick. It's a very fine line, I think, between getting them rolled out and getting them to stick together. Is the first batch that finished. Here is the second batch done. Third batch. Here is the third batch. Got a little tray now. If you're looking for a perfect candy cane shaped cookie, this recipe is not the one you want to use. Did they come out looking like candy canes? Yes. Did they come out nicely shaped, beautifully formed? Anything like that? No. No, they did not. Would I make this again? No. No, I would not. Honestly, I don't like anything about this recipe so far. Well, I can't say that. I haven't tasted them. They might taste really well. In which case, I'm sure there's a better way to get this candy cane shaped. Out of complete curiosity. Just to see what's gonna happen. Last batch of cookies we need to put in the oven. The fourth batch, I believe. And this is the last set here. Here are all of the cookies. There are 53. And there was our little experimental one. So I think this is probably one of the best ones. I had a lot of issues with the recipe. I didn't like rolling it out by the teaspoons. It didn't roll together very well. My kids think they look amazing. My kids can't wait to try them. I feel like it was a whole lot of work for something that I just don't feel was worth it. Also, the topping on top barely sticks to them. I don't see the point in that either, but the flavor's okay. It reminds me of something, just like a plain cookie. You don't really get any of the almond, or at least not much of it. Are they good to eat? Yes. Will they last? No. Were they worth all the work and the effort? No. But they are cute. They're very kind of abstract as far as candy canes go. But taking them off the sheets, you have to be very careful not to break the cane part, because a couple of them snapped when I was taking them off of the baking sheet. Next week, we're going to be making a chocolate pecan roll. It is another type of candy that I think is actually a candy. So if you're interested in that, we will see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.